to talk a little bit about people who say that they have a really serious approach to life, that they're doing things that are important, and they maybe make you feel poorly because you think, well, they're doing important things with their life, and I'm just kind of a loser. I don't really have anything important going on in my life. You ever feel that way? People just, they're so important. They're doing things that are making a difference in the world, and you're not. Well, here's the thing about that. I want you to imagine with me, what if you won the lottery? Not just a normal lottery, but a really, really incredibly big jackpot, where you could very easily never work a day again in your life. You could walk away from everything, and you could spend all of your remaining days drinking champagne on an enormous yacht while you enjoy every luxury of the world and travel to every corner of the earth. Would you still do what you're doing with your life? And for most of us, the answer is no. For most people, they wouldn't keep on going to work and do their normal day job. They'd walk away. If they didn't have to do the job, if they didn't need the money, they would completely and entirely just throw in the towel and head out. So when you look at those people and they act like they're in a position to virtue signal and say, well, I care about what I'm doing, and I'm really making a difference in the world. The truth is they're not really trying to make a difference in the world. They're just slaves on a treadmill. They're doing what they have to do to get what they want. The only reason why they're perhaps doing more than other people is because they want more than other people. And so they have a certain element of greed driving them to do things. You see, that high-powered executive person that's spent their whole life grinding away to get a job that pays pretty good money, they're not doing it because they wanted to make a difference for their company or anything like that, probably. It's so that they can get that new pickup truck they wanted. It's so they can get that property that they wanted to buy. It's all of those things that they have been hoping to have, because a simpler life isn't enough for them. That's the truth of it. So people will act like they're better than other people, but the truth is they're just greedy. And there's nothing wrong with being greedy. Being greedy could be a good motivator. I'm reminded of a quote from the Wall Street movie. The character of Gordon Gekko said that greed, for lack of a better word, is good, because he said it distills, it cuts through, and it clarifies. Greed for love and for money and for knowledge has marked the upward surge of mankind. And he said greed will save our country. So in a sense, he's right. Greed is good. Greed is, as all things, within reasonable proportions, it's a useful tool. But we shouldn't lie to ourselves. We shouldn't say that we're altruistic or that we're there to try to serve, when really we're not there to serve. We're there to profit, and we're not really trying to make other people's lives better. We're trying to make our own life better for our own sake. That's lying to yourself and lying to other people. And that's where we should just be cautious. Now, if you're truly trying to get ahead for your own sake only, then put it in completely clear terms. Don't act like you're trying to be selfless when really you're just trying to get ahead. That's why I think many times you're better off to just outright say, I'm on my own side. I'm not there for anybody else. I'm not trying to make the world a better place. I'm just on my own team, if you will. I'm on my side. I'm not on anyone else's side. I don't align with anything. I have my own agenda, and I'm not going to ask you to trust me. I'm not going to promise to do any good for you in your life. I'm on my own team. Well, that might not sound super cozy and pleasant, but in a way it's a lot more genuine than saying that you're trying to do good in the world when really you're just trying to advance your own personal sense of progression. But if you really just are doing things for your own benefit, for your own sake, you go to work just so that you can have a paycheck, so that you can level up your finances, or you're just doing something because you're trying to get something specific out of it, then you can reevaluate your life a lot more easily. You can say, well, I don't need to do so much because I don't really actually desire as much as I thought I did. You can simplify your life. You can scale things back more easily because you don't really have that sense of, I'm not going to be accomplished enough if I scale back my ambitions, because you stop getting a sense of self-worth out of having bragging rights to say that you've done more than anybody else. And that's really all it is. A lot of people want to be able to say that they're higher achievers than other people so that they can brag about it. That's all it is. And then they burn themselves out because they spend their whole life trying to prove that they're better than other people. But they never actually learn to enjoy their life just for its own sake. Life is really pretty simple, and I think we complicate it sometimes by trying to attach some sort of a element of virtue to things that are really not, not spiritual. It's kind of like how wars often start over resources, commodities and trade routes and things like that. Throughout history, that's kind of what's typically made conflicts happen. So conflict usually is the result of economic issues, but at the same time, conflict is quite often portrayed as being waged over ideological differences. The truth is, usually it's not so much ideological differences as it is economic factors. It's all just a lot more simpler than maybe we'd want to admit, because we want to say that we're fighting some sort of grand spiritual battle of a high moral importance, but really we're just kind of doing our thing and trying to survive another day and trying to increase our status in the pecking order of our society. Ultimately, you should just basically be your own judge of your life. Spend relatively little time judging other people, and spend relatively little time considering the judgments of others. Try to be honest with yourself, but don't pander to other people. Focus less on being good and more on just having a fair and just balance in your life. And usually if you focus on having a balanced life, that also translates to a more moral lifestyle. Because it's not in anyone's rational self-interest to do things that are self-destructive. And when we really just do what we want to do for our own self, and then we coincidentally can make someone else's life better through a mutual partnership, then there's a great deal of pride and satisfaction and trust that is engendered by that kind of a relationship, because it's not a bandage for sore wounds. It's not pity. It's nothing like that. It's actual tribute to say, I take pride in my life and I enjoy the company of quality relationships which benefit me and the other party mutually. Look for opportunities to create a tide that lifts all ships. And don't try to get ahead just so you can say that you're better than somebody else, because that's not going to really win you anything other than wear you out spiritually. You know, I think about how if you wanted to get rich and you really thought about it, you could work, even collecting a pretty good salary, you could work for your whole life and you're never going to come close to being in the world's top most wealthy people, because they don't get wealthy by just working hard. They may work hard, but that's not the primary lever that they use for generating wealth. True wealth generation, it's not from just working hard. It's not from having a college degree. It's not from any of that. It's from understanding things like investments. It's from entrepreneurism. It's from a lot of things that are outside of what the average person thinks they need to do to become rich. And by the same measure, to go back to what motivates people in life, the people who are most likely to be successful are usually the ones that are doing something that they truly love with their life, whatever that is. Not the people who are somehow able to prove that they got the drop on their competition. So just find opportunities to have a good life and then let all the other pieces fall into place. The people who get rich aren't usually the ones who are trying to get rich. The people who are at peace are not usually the people who are extremely obsessed with some sort of a Zen mantra to the point where they're a caricature. The people who are the kindest and most benevolent and the most trustworthy are usually not the people who are renting billboards to let the world know how trustworthy they are. They're people who keep to themselves and don't necessarily advertise themselves as being good or bad, but where the rubber meets the road, you can trust them because they have a sense of a personal true north. So don't try to chase things, just try to have balance in your life, and that's probably enough. And then all the other things fall into place. But above all, for the purposes of our conversation here, remember that you can't follow a path toward personal wholeness if you're looking at everything in life through the lens of what other people think of you. So don't ever look at other people and say, well, they're doing better than I am, or they're more influential than I am, and therefore the life I'm living isn't good enough. You should always follow your own path. And even if it feels like other people have taken a higher path or have found a higher position in life, don't be envious of them. Because if you really deep dive into the journey other people have to live, quite often it's not all it's cracked up to be. I saw a picture of these two guys in a movie, and they're flying through the air in this sort of an action sequence where they're jumping and they're all in the midair, and it's really wild. And then it shows how they actually filmed the scene, and these guys weren't flying through the air while they were shooting and doing all this action stuff. They were being carried through the air by people in green suits, and then the CGI afterwards is what made them look really cool. And I was thinking about how that's kind of how life is when we start comparing ourselves to other people. Well, other people are like those movie actors after the CGI is all in. We look and we see the After Effects version of people's lives. We see the image of themselves they project out into the world and to us. And then we wonder why we can't compete with that, because we're playing a game by the rules and we're trying to compete with people who are using CGI to create a false narrative about themselves. It's easy to find people that are happy, that are successful, when they're able to hide it behind the walls and barriers of social media and all sorts of curated representations of themselves. But the reality is, a lot of people, even the ones who we would be inclined to feel inferior to, are suffering and are much more in trouble than we ourselves are. And I'll close with one story that came to mind, which is an interesting story. I was once working with a man, and he was my manager, and I looked up to him because he seemed like he had command presence. He was the kind of a guy I thought he's got it all together, and he is a better leader, a better manager than I will ever be. He's assertive. He's got a lot of traits that I like. So I looked up to this guy. And then we went our separate ways, and he didn't work for the same company anymore, but we would attend a Masonic Lodge meeting together from time to time because we were both coincidentally members of the same fraternal organization. In any case, I just remember one day I gave him a ride home from a lodge meeting, and I just thought that maybe his wife had the car or something. But anyway, I took him home, and then we were talking, and I remember we had a good talk, and then that was that. And I went home, and he went his way. And then I found out just a little while after that, he committed suicide, and he got in his car and he drove the wrong direction down the freeway, and he killed a whole bunch of people in a deliberate homicide suicide combo. So this guy who seemed like he had it all together from my perspective, well, yeah, I had some things going on, and sometimes I was broody, sometimes I was frustrated about life, sometimes I felt overwhelmed by things, like I had stuff to work through. We all do sometimes. And yet, I did not go kill a bunch of people and take my own life. I didn't have a closet substance abuse problem. I didn't have hidden family problems. I didn't have any of those demons plaguing me that he did. But I didn't know about those things that he was struggling with. All I saw was the image that he projected, and the image he projected to me was that he was a good man and quite possibly a better man than I could be. But looks can be really deceptive. So don't ever look at other people and feel like you have to try to compete with them just because they project the appearance of being more important or accomplished than you are. Wherever your journey takes you, my best wishes. Always. Till next time. Thank you for watching.